In this episode of Trust Insights on the Road, let's talk about slices of time for tourism. If you do any kind of business travel, you know that you're on the road, you're going places, you're doing things, and it feels like you're just going from hotel room to conference center or business meeting and office to back to the airport. One of the most important things you can do is set aside time for yourself. Set aside time for you to go see some sights or go work out or anything, but ideally something that's unique to that location. Because the reality is, as you travel for business, in particular as you travel for business to places you don't normally go, there's an opportunity to not just relax, but also see stuff that you wouldn't normally see. So as I'm recording this today, I am in London. First time in the city of London, and yesterday when I got in, I got a chance to spend a good chunk of the day just wandering around. And even though I was really tired, I got an hour of sleep the previous night. I took advantage of it. I had that time to go and see things. I went to see several sites from the filming of the BBC series Sherlock. St. Bart's Hospital, for example. Not the most common tourist locations. I hit a few of the common tourist locations as well. Again, just for the experience, just to enjoy the process of traveling. And that's really the most important part, is as we do our work, if we can add little bits of enjoyment to the process, it blunts the cost, right? It blunts the cost of having to not be with our families, not be with our loved ones, our pets, or at least even just not being in our own comfortable beds at home. So whether it's an hour to eat a meal at a restaurant you don't normally go to, whether it's half a day, try to set aside some time. When I'm doing any kind of events, when I'm speaking, rule number one of being a speaker: you never, ever, ever, ever travel on the day you're speaking, ever. If you're going to a time change that is more than 3 hours offset, give yourself at least a full day in the new location, because it will take a good amount of time to adjust. When I travel to Europe, I try to travel to have a travel day, which is almost always like on a weekend, an overnight flight in which your quality of sleep is going to be basically garbage. And then that first day, you essentially power through that day to try and do some sightseeing, do some stuff that's low cognitive, and then try to fall asleep at what would be a normal time in that time zone to quickly get your body to adapt. And then you can get to work. If you're scheduling and your company and your budget permit, give yourself the extra time. And when you give yourself the extra time, use that time. The worst thing you can do is travel to some place that's interesting and just sit in your hotel room, right? Obviously, take into account things like personal safety, the safety of the environment you're in, and things like that. Be sensible. But if you can take the time to go and see a museum, see a public landmark, go hiking up a hill nearby. When I was in Belgrade, Serbia last year, I had about half a day of just wander time the day I got in, and sure thing, I went and climbed to the top of the tallest hill in the city, got a great view of the Danube River, and these are things that I would not have experienced. I would not have enjoyed had I not been traveling for business. And the one lovely thing about business travel is it's travel you can do without having to pay for it personally. And so I would strongly encourage you to do the same, to set aside as much time as you're permitted on your business travels. That way you enjoy them more, right? You still got to get your work done, but you enjoy them more, and you have experiences you wouldn't normally have. Because at the end of the day, at the end of the road, when you look back at your time at your job, at your time in your life, you want to be able to look back with at least some fond memories of all that time that you spent on the road. Whether you travel once a year, once a month, once a week, even if you're going to the same place. Like I used to, when I worked at a previous company, I used to go to San Francisco all the time. I was there like at least 4 times a year, if not more. I was going to New York City 3 to 4 times a year. These are big places. There's plenty to see, even if you're going to the same general destination. There's always a new museum, a new shop, a new restaurant, something to try. And frankly, remember this is true also of your home, right? There's generally new things in the nearest large city, whether it's an hour's drive away, 2 hours drive away. There's generally new stuff. So if you have the opportunity, follow the same advice at home too. But especially when you're business traveling, make sure that you set aside slices of time for yourself. That's it for this episode. Thanks for tuning in. Talk to you soon.
If you like this video, go ahead and hit that subscribe button.